Warcraft movie fucking sucked. Like, when I sit and think about it, it really fucking did. I'm a pretty big fan of Warcraft. Probably not as big as some people have been, and I do sort of semi-pay attention to Warcraft lore as I've played through World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3, Warcraft 2, and the subsequent expansions. Looking back at the Warcraft movie, there was just so many things wrong with it that it's actually kind of hard for me to really give a proper estimation of exactly how much of a disastrous fuck-up I really thought it was. The pacing in the movie is point A, in all honesty. It was brutal. It was just, like, I mean, I sat and watched the film from start to finish, and every 2 or 3 minutes the film was jumping from one point to the next. The plot was all over the place. The pacing was all over the place. Point B, the actual reason as to why Gul'Dan did what he did and the reason why the orcs are what they were was not at all iterated upon in any real capacity. You see the Draenei for all of about 30 seconds, if that. And in general, the way Warcraft lore paints the Draenei and the way the Draenei are actually portrayed in the games and subsequent content is really poor. The Draenei are super powerful beings, and I am aware of the fact that there's some accuracy from a lore perspective as to what happened with regards to the enslavement of the Draenei by the orcs, but the reason the orcs even took Fel in the first place was so that they could defeat the Draenei, and they were manipulated by the Legion in order to do so. The acting itself was pretty flat from the human characters. The orcs were acted reasonably well. The motivations for each character were pretty poor. People went on about the father-son relationship between Lothar and his son way too much. It was emphasized far too strongly, like the value of that relationship and how it played out was emphasized too strongly by some of the reviewers. It was very poor in general. There was a couple of scenes. The scene behind the lightning wall wasn't that bad. The CGI was fantastic. The action sequences were fantastic. I kind of expected no less from Legendary Productions or Legendary Pictures. I thought that the relationship between Blizzard and Legendary was ultimately going to be a good one, and it would result in a pretty strong movie, but as I said before, the pacing of the film was a disaster. Not only that, I feel that it should have been entirely CGI. They shouldn't have even bothered with trying to blend live action and CGI together. I don't feel that it was necessary at all. It really should have been just done pure CGI. I mean, in fairness, Blizzard is fucking great at their CGI flicks. Their CGI stuff is spectacular, and it would have been strong enough just with that work and some good directing, and that could have been it. The movie itself was a financial success, thanks in part to China. Its Rotten Tomato aggregate is somewhere, as of recording this, at around 23%. I'm a Warcraft fan, and even I found the injection of repeated Easter eggs and nods to Warcraft players as honestly pretty intolerable. I wanted this movie to be approachable from any angle by newcomers to the Warcraft franchise, and I felt that it completely fell flat on that. There were a couple of moments where I thought, ooh, this is a nod to me that I actually liked. Honestly, Morose being the caretaker of Karazhan was a great nod. That's the sort of thing that really wouldn't have bothered me too much. There was some other stuff that I felt needed some greater expansion upon. There were important plot points, as I mentioned earlier with the Draenei, that just didn't get enough highlighting. Why Medivh did what he did is completely unknown to the audience. You have to be a Warcraft fan to understand why Medivh did what he did. I mean, with none of that explained, it appears that he just goes from being a really good guy to a really bad guy for absolutely no reason. And I can understand how that would be really frustrating to people who have never seen or heard of or are new to the franchise in general. The strength that the Fel gave the orcs was pretty mediocre in comparison to what it was really supposed to be. For all intents and purposes, viewers simply view the fact that there are green orcs and there are brown orcs and they're all standing around together. Sometimes they fight with each other, sometimes they don't. They're generally pretty tolerant of one another, and you don't really get a good sense of why this happened, how it happened, what the purpose of it was, and the disastrous mix-up of storytelling and pacing just makes this whole thing worse. They really could have just told this story from the Orc side. Now, as a Warcraft player and as a Warcraft fan, I generally tend to favour the Alliance story side, but it could have just been told from the Orc side and that would have been fine. There was no real need to even include the Alliance side, and not only that, the Alliance acting was pretty flat in general. You could have included Medivh and a couple of side characters, but it was really not great. Khadgar's actor and Khadgar's role was fine, wasn't too bad, was acted reasonably well, didn't seem terrible. King Anduin Sr., disastrous, just not good. Garona's actor and Garona's role in general was poor, not particularly strong. In this age where we're sort of trying to tout the strength of strong female characters, Garona was very shallow and very two-dimensional, although realistically in the lore, Garona is just a recurring side character anyway, so it's not necessarily a big deal, but I feel she could have been done better. Durotan was arguably the better character. The whole Orc narrative was far better put together than the Alliance narrative, and that is actually pretty reflective of Warcraft in general, because the Alliance side of the way this game has always worked has always had a weaker narrative. It's always been poorer. It's always been a spotlight upon the Orcs and their trials and tribulations and their story, even though if I was to take real liberty with it and take a real broad interpretation, I always thought that it was the story of the Draenei. That was always the strongest story to me. Another criticism I have is that I've seen better Night Elf cosplay. In all honesty, I've seen Night Elves cosplayed better than they were shown in the movie. And I'm not even sure that they were Night Elves. They could have been High Elves at that point. My actual recollection of the lore at that point in the game is pretty spotty at best. And the dwarves felt shoehorned. They didn't really seem that important. It was a mess. The whole movie was a fucking mess. Possibly more messy than my shitty review of it that I'm doing right now, but I felt that the whole fucking damn thing was a mess. The pacing was shit, the acting was a disgrace, CGI was fine, the music was fine, but it was generally a storytelling disaster. I found it very hard to follow the plot, and I'm a Warcraft fan. I felt that the Easter eggs were too strong. You needed too much knowledge of Warcraft's history to even be able to comment on it or to really participate in the film. And even then, as a Warcraft fan, I found it lacking extremely. Anyway, that's what I feel about it. I'm RossDunneIE. Peace. Hey guys, what's up? RossDunneIE. And if you liked any of the content in this video, why not check out some more of the videos on my channel? And if you really like this video, why don't you hit that like and subscribe button? Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. I can't do any of this without you guys, and hitting up my channel and social media really lets me know you give a shit. With that being said, thanks for your time. I'm RossDunneIE. Once again, peace.